can all join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. And keeping the palms joined. We put the palms down. All right, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thank you for showing up. Anyone here for the first time? Those who are here for the first time, what brings you here? Sorry, you probably didn't know you were going to get put on the spot after you got your hand in the air. Curiosity of
self-discovery, seeking guidance through a pursuit of a more peaceful path, and some profound life experience that's guided my alignment towards Buddhism.
Yeah, I hear you. Well said. Thanks. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Another hand somewhere. First time. What brings you here?
Faith, I guess.
Yeah. Just walking by and saw the doors open. It's happened before, you know. It's a Buddhist temple, just so you know. Yeah. Glad you're here. Anybody else first time here? What brings you here? Nobody else wants to play. For those of you who keep showing up, why keep showing up?
Price is right.
Price is right. Yeah, I mean, free is free. Yeah. What else?
To stay stable in an unstable world.
Yeah. Stay stable in an unstable world. What else?
To gather amongst kindred souls.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's an important question, just as I often ask, just to kind of ponder, you know, for those of you who are maybe brand new or those who've been at this for many years or anywhere in between, always just kind of explore the initial intention as to why you started on a path or practice like this. Very often, most people who are, except for those who just stumbled in randomly, very often people who end up at places like this are dealing with, you know, conflict, chaos, difficulties, challenges, whatever it might be. And so the practice is to recognize that those are not necessarily ever going to go away. They're just going to change. Sometimes they're more extreme, sometimes they're gentler, but they change. And so at times, as we are challenged throughout our day-to-day lives, coming back to that original intention as to why you showed up is always really important. And I don't necessarily mean showed up here. I just mean kind of showed up for yourself on some sort of meditation, spiritual journey. Because as life continues to get difficult, and like I said, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. But at the times it is really difficult, that's the time that one really does rely on their spiritual practice the most. And that's also often the time when it's the hardest to kind of call upon it and look at it and find it and sit with it, because things are so difficult. So coming back to that original intention really is important, to just keep motivated, keep inspired, stay grounded, and just don't quit, don't give up, you know, just kind of one day at a time, getting through everything the best you can. So with that, we'll start with the meditation practice. To those who are joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. Thank you for showing up. Feel free as you are to say hello. There's a chat box somewhere on your screen. A couple things to tell you before we begin, for those who might be here for the first time or sitting for the first time. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward, allows the back to straighten. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, just trying to sit up straight, relaxing the shoulders if comfortable. Especially for those who are new, you're not trying to empty your thoughts. You're not trying to go blank. You're not going to think nothing. Your mind will continue to race. I'll say things periodically to remind you that you're lost in thought and bring you back to present moment, or wake you up because you have fallen asleep, which isn't the end of the world, but definitely try to stay awake. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. We'll start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from your practice, just sitting, breathing. learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, and no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awaken. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives, but with a mind that's steady, clear, and focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This is not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation doesn't fix that. This practice helps you become aware of why your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess so you can begin to make changes in your life. It's the biggest piece of this practice that most people miss. They think that they live their life and then they go to some meditation Buddhist thing and that all of a sudden their life is going to change. If you don't make changes, your life won't change. When you make changes, then your life changes. But a lot of people miss that. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do in each moment. Because your thoughts, your words, and your actions create your reality. This practice isn't about fixing others, changing others. It's also not ignoring or avoiding what goes on around us. It's about integrating into the world with a mind that's calm and steady and clear and filled with love and compassion, not with hatred and anger. This practice is not sitting in a place of privilege for those who have it and ignoring what happens in the world. The world may be a mess, but as I always say, are you a mess? That's what this practice is. It's not about fixing others. It's about becoming aware of your mental, emotional health and well-being and how you interact in the world. And if you want a kinder, gentler world, then work your butt off to create that. But do it from a place of love and kindness and not from a place of hatred and anger. Because then you take care of yourself while you do your best to take care of others. The practice is very simple. It does not change. 2,500 years, it's been exactly the same. Lots of cultures, lots of languages, lots of different ways to explain it. But it's really simple. Think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds. That is the practice. And I think for many, that's why it's so difficult, because we're often looking for something so complicated, so esoteric, so must be something else out there. This practice is a mirror, and it's an opportunity to reflect back on yourself. If your mind and heart are a mess, then look at that. Look at what you think, what you say, what you do. Look at your actions throughout the day, how you consume, what you consume. Look at the places you put yourself in, the people you spend time with, the places that trigger you. Make changes. But if you continue to do the same thing over and over again, there's that Einstein quote, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, is a definition of what? Insanity. Now, I'm not calling you insane. I'm sure you're all wonderful people, although I do know a few of you and you might fit in that category. So make changes. That's where it starts. And again, as I said, that's why it's often difficult, because it is a lot easier to point fingers and throw blame at everybody else for everything being a mess. And again, while this is not about avoiding things, that's not this practice. This practice is about you. So with that, I'll pause. For me, I always prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhism, anything you're sitting with. We'll use the rest of our brief time this morning for questions. And to those who are joining virtually, again, welcome. Feel free to say hello as you are. There's a chat box somewhere on your screen. If you have any questions, you can put them there. I'll do my best to respond. So we'll open up to questions. Yeah.
As I understand it, the three poisons are anger, greed, and ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
But I seem to feel that hatred is blacker than all of those. Why isn't it a part of the three poisons?
Well, so to repeat your question was, your understanding is that the three poisons, I'll explain this in a minute, is greed, anger, ignorance. And to use your words, you said that anger seems blacker than all of them. Hatred. Hatred seems blacker than all of them. First of all, I don't get the black reference, but that's all right. I understand what your meaning is. I just don't like the way we use the word black in our language in a negative way. So I think that's something to look at as well.
Can you answer that?
Huh?
Can you answer that?
Oh, I'm getting there. Yeah. I hear anger and hatred in your voice. Yeah. So let me back up for those who are new to Buddhism and don't understand the nature of this question, right? The first thing the Buddha taught, the Four Noble Truths, to walk through them very quickly, the first thing he said is life is filled with dukkha. Translates often to suffering. Suffering is a really poor translation because suffering sounds very heavy and extreme and traumatic. And yes, we do experience heavy, extreme, traumatic things in our lives. But dukkha really is discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction, things just not going our way. So while there are heavy things in our life, there's also your latte wasn't made the right way, the traffic isn't moving quick enough, you don't like the way your shirt looks today, little things that really don't matter. That is, I find that most people spend a majority of their day being triggered by the little things, the little dukkha that really doesn't make that big of a difference. You know, at the moment you're on your deathbed, are those the things that you're really going to worry about? Probably not. Those things are what piss people off throughout their day a lot. And it comes often from a place of judgment, of thinking that you're better and correct. Anyone here think they're right all day long? Bunch of liars, right? So this is dukkha. The second thing, which is the nature of the question, is the cause of suffering. The Buddha said greed, anger, ignorance. And greed often also is craving, desire, right? But that's the cause of our suffering, greed, anger, ignorance. To overcome greed, anger, ignorance, the practice of generosity, compassion to overcome anger, and wisdom to overcome ignorance. The third noble truth is the ending of suffering, cessation of suffering, liberation, nirvana, etc. The fourth is the path. This is called the Eightfold Path. Having correct views, thought, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration. This is in essence what you think, say, and do all day long, right? All of that is on Google for free. Just stay on the first two Google search pages and you can come across the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. So your question is about hatred. Is that what you said? Yeah. So hatred is greed. Hatred is anger. Hatred is ignorance. It's just semantics. It's the way you're looking at your definition of the word hatred. But, and I don't want to turn this into a therapy session, but if you look at things that you hate, there's a greed because you want them to be different. And if we hate someone, it's because we think we're better than they are. So we're often greedy. We want them to be the way we want things to be, and they're not. So we have a craving and a desire. Greed, I always use the word greed, but the one thing I don't like about greed is that it often comes across as if greed tends to be about money and like wanting more, but it's really craving, desire to want things to be a certain way. So when you hate something or someone, it's you want them to be different. Anger, the second one of the three poisons, you're angry at the way things are or people are. And therefore you have hatred because you're filled with anger. And the third one is ignorance. The reason you have hatred or one has hatred is because they're ignoring reality and they're stuck in their perception of reality. So ignore in the word ignorance is what I love, because ignorance doesn't mean dumb, not educated, all those words. Ignorance means you're ignoring reality. You have a perception of reality. Your perception of reality is not correct. I hate to break it to you. It's not that it's wrong either. It's just your perception. And every person in here has a different perception of reality. But because we cling to our perception being correct, I mean, do any of you roam around all day long and think, all your thoughts are wrong? No, we spend our whole lives trying to think that we're right, we're correct. And then we enforce that in our minds. Then we want to prove it and tell everybody how right we are. And then when they don't agree with us, then they're stupid and we hate them. So greed, anger, ignorance is hatred, all bundled up in one. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad it's good versus bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And correct. I try to be correct and good. What else? Yeah.
Been contemplating a lot on the fact that, like, I don't know myself anymore, and I know, like, intuitively, like, there's studies, and like, there is no self, right?
Mhm.
But it's interesting to me how much I am panicking about that.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I don't have a stable sense of self at all.
Yeah.
Just wondering if you can maybe talk about that a little. I don't have a question.
Yeah. No, for sure. No, it's great. So the question was, for those in the back who didn't hear it, around the sense of self, and you're saying that you feel like you don't know yourself anymore, and you're pretty terrified. And you said that from the studying that in Buddhist teachings there is no self, but it's still pretty scary, and you don't feel stable. So a couple things. One, the first thing I was going to say as you were talking, as I said this to you before, is congratulations, right? Because this illusion that you've had of yourself is not real. But I'll expand on that a little bit. But to back up for a second, this idea of non-self. So let me say this first before I forget. What you're experiencing right now in your own way is kind of like if somebody can't swim, you don't jump in the water because you're going to drown. And that's kind of where you're at right now. You've spent your whole life having a view and perception of yourself, and all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, what was that?
Yeah, like it was all masks.
It's all masks. It's all a wall. It's all a story. It's all an illusion. And the challenge here, and then I'll come back to non-self in a minute, is we spend our whole lives trying to define who we are. I mean, everything in kind of our Western mindset is to build your identity, define who you are. Who are you? And in our culture, we tend to think like what we do very superficially is like who we are. If somebody says to you, Theo, tell me about you, the standard answer is, well, this is what I do. I didn't ask what you did. What you did doesn't tell me who you are. And then you start telling me who you are. And you're like, I am this, this, this. And I'm like, really? Is that who you are? Or are those things you've done? Most people get stuck when they look at who they are. I'm talking about things they've done. Things you've done is not who you are. They're just things you've done. Everyone in this room has had 1 trillion experiences over 1 trillion years. Anyone in this room done good stuff and bad stuff, and some neutral. This is our life. And so from our perception of our entire life, I just talked about ignorance. So what you're really looking at, and again, I'll kind of come back to non-self in a minute. What you're really looking at is that you have a perception. All of us have a perception of ourselves. And I talk about this on Sundays in the Heart Sutra class, that we have a story about who we are. And we tell ourselves that story over and over and over again. And we rely on that story because that gives us this sense of like stability, which is your question. Now, all of a sudden you're realizing like, wow, none of that is who I am. And you don't know what to do. And that's why I'm saying congratulations, because what you've done is you've shattered the story. And now you can actually breathe, because the story in your head also includes who you think you're supposed to be. Most people suffer so much in their lives because they have a story in their head about who they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to accomplish and how they're supposed to live. And most people never live up to that. The bar is always higher than what we can reach. How beautiful it is to have no bar and to just breathe and live. Now, at this moment, it's not beautiful. It sucks because it's scary. But again, as you know, my response is not going to bring you a sense of like joy or peace or satisfaction other than recognizing this is a beautiful place to begin. Because the Buddhist teachings on non-self is about understanding that this thing you're calling yourself is not you, but you've been doing that your whole life. So, and as we all have, if I said to anyone in this room, tell me about you, you'll give me a story. Is that story who you are? And then if I ask 10 people to tell me about you, are any of them correct? Or is that just their perception of you and their experience with you? So non-self doesn't mean that you're not here. It doesn't mean you're not real. It doesn't mean that you don't exist. It just means that you exist completely differently from how you perceive yourself to be. If you stop labeling and judging who you are, then you can just breathe and exist and do stuff. We are just a physical form body with a consciousness going through time and space, doing stuff. Don't give that any sort of like box. So that's why what we fall back on, again, and this is where the practice comes in. It doesn't mean, especially for those who are new to Buddhism, because if you hear something like that, it can sound almost as if, well, nothing matters then. No, everything matters. Why does it matter? Because we interact with people. Have you ever hurt others? Yes, it sucks. Have you ever been hurt? Yes, it sucks. So the reason this matters is because as we go through time and space with these physical bodies and this consciousness and do things, we have an opportunity to help people or harm people. We have an opportunity to be kind or unkind. We have an opportunity to be greedy and angry and hate people and things, or we have an opportunity to practice generosity, compassion, and wisdom. So we come back to what's called the practice. And this is what the ground that when you look at stability, I think of a ground to stand on. A couple things. The first thing is the ground you're standing on ultimately as a practitioner is simply think kind thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds. That's it. No need to define it. No need to judge, were my thoughts kind enough today? Because throughout your day, you're going to have lots of kind thoughts and lots of unkind thoughts. Throughout your day, you're going to say some kind things and maybe some unkind things. And throughout the day, you're going to do some wonderful, kind things and maybe some not so wonderful, kind things. But that's it. You don't need to label all of those. You don't need to compare all of those. You don't need to, this is the practice, to not then judge, well, now I'm this person versus that person. But what you're standing on, the ground you're standing on, is simply the practice of the Paramitas for me, the generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, wisdom. And that's it. You do those things day in and day out, and then you die. That's it. Like truly. All the stories we've all told ourselves, like, why? Were you born to like, with this idea of I'm going to give myself a little story. I'm going to be good enough for everybody. I hope people like me. No, we're not born that way. We're conditioned to be that way. We're born, we're crying, we're screaming. Somebody puts a diaper on us, they change us, they feed us, little things, they hold us. Now we're all just big babies looking to be held. Just be kind. Last thing I'll say, the other side, which kind of contradicts everything I just said, is Chogyam Trungpa would talk about the beauty of Buddhist, the Buddhist practice in essence is like jumping off a really tall building without a parachute. That's the bad news. The good news is there's no ground to fall on. So you just keep practicing because you don't need to be stable. Stable is a false sense of security anyways. It's stable. You have a definition of stable, right? You right now have enough clothes for the rest of your life, unless you gain like 100 pounds or lose 100 pounds. But we'll still buy more clothes. And again, for those who are brand new, I'm not telling you don't buy clothes, right? Buy all the clothes you want, right? Yeah. Yeah, please.
I've noticed for me, like the two deepest, I guess, desires and attachments that keep me wanting this false sense of stability.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've erased a lot of addictions in my life
Mm-hmm.
and intentionally to see what was left. And it's like, oh crap, there's nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's that metaphor.
Yeah.
But it seems like the biggest one is that I just want love,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And in a way that I can control, right?
Well, there's the key.
That's
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
mean. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I want
They're laughing because they're with you.
everybody,
Yeah.
everybody with
They're
me.
laughing at you, not with you. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I want this one person
Yeah.
that I have chosen to
Yeah.
love me.
Yeah.
I want this, you know, and then I go, well, that person requires this.
Yes.
This stability.
Yes.
I'm not that stability.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's-
You're like, I'm just falling, man. Yeah.
But what I was like, I don't. It's weird because I feel like I need to have a very solid sense of self to navigate the ideas that everybody else expects of me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know that's also an illusion, but it
Yeah.
feels so real.
Yeah. Yes, totally. So a couple things. One is to say this first, I always default back to, I mean, these teachings come from the dude who was a prince. He had all the wealth, all the riches, all the women. He had everything. Lots of people loved him. And you know what he was? Not happy, attached, stuck, miserable, suffering. So he left all of that, first and foremost, right? He did return, but he returned with a different view.
Yeah.
The second thing is, you know, Venerable Yizhe, my first Buddhist teacher, Taiwanese Buddhist nun, she used to say, you know, because what I hear you saying is, yeah, I hear you saying that you want love, but I think what you really just want is validation that you're doing okay. And I think there's a fine line between the two. She would say that when you close your eyes and go to sleep at night, whether there's somebody next to you or not, you're always alone. Because you're just in your own thoughts in your own head. So whether there's somebody physically there loving you or not, you're still in your own mind. So this practice, I get it. But as soon as you bring in, even based on what you just shared, and this, we can all relate to this in something in our lives. As soon as you bring in this idea that you need to be okay so somebody else can love you, and if they love you, then they're going to set parameters of what you think they need, then you're back to the same shit you've been in.
Oh, I know.
So maybe it's time to think, maybe life isn't about having somebody else love you.
No, I think it's about me loving me.
Correct.
But that would require some type of self.
No,
No?
that falls away too. But it starts with recognizing that you don't need somebody else in your life.
Yes, I am.
You know?
Becoming keenly aware.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. What else? Yeah.
How does Buddhism address it all, dealing with fear? Because, well, he named it just now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what's driving him to pick one box over another box.
Mm-hmm.
I want love because what if no one can love me?
Yeah.
What if it's not there? I want self because what if it's an illusion and there's an appearance? Nothing is scary. Fear evolved to protect us, but really it forces us to live in ignorance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have nothing to add to that. Yeah. There's an acronym that I love that, I don't know, some of you may have heard this, but around fear, which is false evidence appearing real. And I really find that to be a beautiful teaching, that we're often so afraid of the future. We have this idea of something's going to be so miserable. You know, I hate to break it to you, but sometimes life actually works out better than you thought. You know, you've got some good things in your life that you didn't expect to have. And there's also things in your life that you really wish you didn't have. But this idea, and that's where the practice is staying present, you know, the future is coming, but, you know, you take care, as Dogen would say, ultimately what the last part of your question, Theo, was Dogen would say, you must get to know the self before you can get rid of the self. So it's not about ignoring or avoiding the sense of self, this, you know, thing that we are so wrapped up in trying to love. But you have to get to know that. And once you get to know that and be okay with that, then that can fall away. And then whether you have somebody physically or not, it's not the point.
No,
You know?
but
Yeah.
again, there's the intellectual practice versus the bodily practice.
Yeah, it's just time. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out a core sense of self for a bit after I realized I don't know what it is anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's again, you're in a better place to not know what it is than in a place to know what it is. And I think in about 18 more lifetimes, you'll be there. So you're good. Yeah. Go ahead.
So is it also an illusion if you feel like you're a good person?
Yeah. I mean, I hate to break it to you, but yeah. Hate to be such a downer. But here's the question was, is it also an illusion if you feel like you're a good person? But yes, but let's be very clear about this word illusion. This is what we do all day long. So I could sit here all day long and say, yes, my understanding of the Buddhist teaching is that every perception is an illusion, meaning it's not exactly what's happening. But that doesn't mean that's not what we're doing all day long. That's what we are doing all day long. We are living in a story in our head. And my view as a practice is if I'm going to make up a story about myself and an illusion, it's a lot healthier to view myself as a good person than a bad person. I spent a majority of my life thinking I was a terrible person. So it's a lot easier and happier and kinder to myself and others to tell myself a story that I'm a good person. But ultimately, yes, all of those things are illusions because they're just stories we tell ourselves. Those affirmations, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people love me. For you old Saturday Night Live, Stuart Smalley fans, like if you're going to tell yourself about yourself, at least be kind. I mean, think about how kind you speak to other people, at least most people, right? Now, do you speak that way to yourself? So this practice of speaking good words, it also includes how we speak to ourselves. I want to be very careful when I talk about non-self and illusion that we don't get this idea that like, oh, nothing matters and we're not here. You are here. You're going to have time today over the next hour to really make people kind and happy or to piss them off. This practice isn't about sitting in some little temple space and pondering the nature of reality. This practice is about getting out there and integrating into the world and getting on the freeway and going to get food or whatever you're going to next. How do you treat those people? That's what this practice is. That's the focus. How do you interact with others? And in the process of interacting with others, you make it not about yourself. Same thing with the practice of non-self. To me, the practice of non-self is not figuring out, am I really here? Yes, I am here. What am I going to do with this body that is here? How can I make an impact? How can I help people's lives? We all have that ability. So I don't want to make it too intellectual and heady about this non-self, thing. Like, go help people. To me, that, as you've heard me say many times, that is the practice of non-self. Because when you help people, you feel good. And when you're helping people, it's not about you. What else? There's a question here. Thanks, Cinda. So the question, which I was just starting to read, and then you said the comments here answered a lot of my question. The question is, connection is important, but because people can be challenging, I sometimes prefer the peace of solitude. I wondered if Buddha had thoughts on solitude versus connecting with others. Yeah, I mean, he left home and roamed the base of the Himalayan mountains for 6 years, spent a lot of time in solitude and with others. So I think there's a balance. And, to your question about people can be challenging, you know who we are? People, challenging people. So as I often joke, we're here very often because of our views or dynamics or whatever with other people or places or things in the world. And somebody in your life right now potentially is at some other meditation, yoga, spiritual journey because of you. So, it goes both ways. Just because we do our Buddhist stuff, we're not free from being people that piss off other people. Yeah. What else? Oh, yes. Thank you, Cinda, for acknowledging you can be challenging too. Other question? Yeah.
I was just wondering, I guess the two-part question thought, why was the world made so that it wasn't easy to...
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go to part two.
Okay, part two. I often find myself most at peace and sort of like almost practicing without thinking about practicing when
Yeah.
I'm in nature.
Yeah.
And nature also seems to kind of be non-judgmental. Like there's a life force that's happening, but it doesn't overthink itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was wondering if you could just reflect.
Yeah. I'm actually going to go back to the first question because I like that better. The second part, I mean, spend time in, I mean, it's real simple. Like you find peace in nature. So spend more time in nature. Right. And nature, there's, you know, lots of great little, you know, poems, memes, whatever's out there about, you know, the trees grow, the flowers grow, they die. Like they're just going, right. Without controlling them. Yeah. Without thinking about it. It's just happening. Right. But actually to your first question, and I know I cut you off, so apologies for doing that because you were asking about like why the world was created. And as soon as you said that, I was like, but I think what you is what you were starting to say. Why was the world created where things are so difficult or everything is so hard?
It's like a lot of what I hear and kind of think about is aspirational.
Yeah. Okay.
Why is it that we have to aspire and work towards it?
Yeah.
Because why wasn't the world created so that we have?
It was. It was.
Hallelujah.
We made a big mess of things, and it started when we were born. This is what the Buddha, to me, the teachings and my understanding of causes and conditions. And I made that kind of comment earlier about as soon as we're born, we are crying, or we come into the world screaming, right? And as a child, as a baby, a newborn, when babies scream, why are they screaming? A couple reasons. They're uncomfortable. They need something. That's why I would say maybe that they need a diaper change, they need food, they need to be hugged, right? Basic needs, right? From that moment, we are conditioned. As we scream, we know that when we get held or fed or changed, we stop screaming. Then we get, and maybe we have the ability as a baby to sit up, right? And then maybe if we have the ability as a baby to sit up, is somebody like, yay, my baby can sit up? And they're like, whoa, when are they going to turn over and crawl? I've not raised kids, so I don't know the order this all happens in. So work with me, right? And then all of a sudden they're crawling. Is that enough? No. Our parents like, what?
No, they need to go to Harvard.
They need, yeah. So it goes from crawling to now they need to go to Harvard, right? So all along the way, they need to crawl, they need to walk, they need to stand, you know, they need to run. All these things happen, right? When you're in second grade, or like junior high school, where your parents like, you know, I hope you just get D's and finish. No, everybody is pushed. That's why I always reference, and I'll kind of close with these thoughts, I think, but lots of my favorite Buddhist movies, you know, Fight Club, Groundhog Day, and The Matrix, but another one that has many scenes. If you want to understand Buddhism in Western culture, just watch those movies. But Big Daddy with Adam Sandler. Have you seen it? And so he lets his kid go to school dressed as, you remember the name? Scuba Steve, right? He lets his kid just put on like scuba gear and go to school. Because he says to the 5-year-old kid, what do you want to wear to school? And the kid chose to dress up like Scuba Steve. I don't know, maybe it was some cartoon character or something. And so he wore the scuba set up, you know? But no, we're like, you got to wear this. You got to have these clothes. You got to go here. You got to get A's. And so it starts all the way along, you know? And somewhere in the picture, to use your example, Harvard comes into play or whatever it is, you know? But nothing is ever enough. We are taught that. The world wasn't created that way. So I'm not going to talk about the creation of the world because I'm the last guy to talk about that, but I can talk about causes and conditions. And billions of dollars are spent every year telling you what you should look like, what you should wear, how much you should weigh, what you should drive, right? I mean, these are my talks on like cars, you know? It's one of my funniest things, right? Anyone think of any time you bought a car or a bicycle or anything you bought recently. Cars do what? They take you places. And you go to a car lot and there's like 32 different colors. And once we find the color that we like on the outside, then we have to go to the inside. And is it two-tone? Does it match the outside? Is it light enough? Is it dark enough? What if I spill coffee on it? How's it going to look? You know, I talk about this stuff because I come from this maddening world where you can only wear a shirt that matches your shoes, that matches a tie after like September or something like that. You know, that it has to change colors. You can't wear white after whatever holiday, Labor Day, right? Like that we created a world that tells us what color clothes we can wear based on the calendar. We are all in it. I grew up a spoiled, privileged Jewish kid from Del Cerro. I know that world very well. It was torture in my head because it didn't make any sense to me. But I was stuck in it. And it is a fight to get out of it, to uncondition, to recondition, to change the conditioned patterns and behaviors that have been put in your head. I come back to the life of the Buddha. He was a prince, had everything. He left it. He shaved his head. He cut it initially, but shaved his head, his long, princely, beautiful hair. He put patches of cloth together and put on a robe, symbolically to show that he was renouncing his attachment to worldly possessions. Now, we are not monks. We are not nuns. I'm not suggesting that we in here get rid of all of our stuff and renounce your attachment to worldly possessions. But if you want to think about why you're struggling so much throughout your day, think about all the people and places and things you feel you must have for happiness. And how much of your life do you spend chasing those people and places and things, thinking it's going to bring you happiness, only to get close to death without ever having been happy? If you stop chasing people and places and things, you can just sit down and breathe. That's it. That is the practice. That is the teachings. Now, whether we choose to do them or not, and at what level we choose to do them, is up to every individual. But I found that the more diligently we practice, the less we suffer. It's like anything else. The harder we work at it, the easier it becomes. But if you don't make changes, going back to what I initially said, if you don't challenge yourself to break through some of these conditions that you have in your life, that we all have. I'm just looking at you because you asked the question, if you don't challenge yourself to say, can I just drink a coffee without worrying about what goes in it? Can I just put socks on without worrying about whether they match my pants? Can I just put a tie on that maybe doesn't match my belt? Little things that seem so absurd, but the reality is those things are hard to do for many people because we're conditioned to think that they matter. And then when it comes to real things in life that matter, we're screwed because we're still stuck thinking that our belt needs to match our shoes, So I'll close on that. We'll join palms. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. And before y'all head out, Kevin has our Dharma Bum host announcements. And while Kevin's coming up, we're looking for Dharma Bum hosts Tuesday night and Wednesday night. So if you want access to the temple with the code and want to break in and steal everything and do what Kevin is about to do, we need somebody Tuesday and Wednesday. And we're also looking for Buddha for You volunteers and help Saturday and Sunday noon to 3. So if you want to help, that would be great. Thanks, buddy.
Hey everyone, I'm today's host, Kevin. We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it, then bring it back whenever you are done with it. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and hope to see you all again. And one announcement, next Saturday, the third Saturday of the month, is our family sangha. So if you have kids and family, they're more than welcome to join us Saturday at 11 o'clock.
And Tiffany, are you there? Was that Tiffany? Is she right there by the door? She went a little farther. Are you organizing cleaning today?
I don't know, we have things there next week, actually.
Next week. So I saw you, so I thought you were, okay, it threw me off. Thank y'all.